Welcome to the Wow MD podcast, where in each episode you will get in 30 minutes or less valuable pearls about holistic wellness, anti-aging, hormone therapies, beauty trends, and other facts you should know about our medical healthcare system and your health that no one is telling you. My name is Dr. Mirala Chernayanu. I am a conventional board-certified OBGYN physician who, after the loss of my father due to a careless and uncaring medical team, decided to retrain and seek certification in anti-aging and restorative therapies. What I know, I am happy to share with you. Hello, dear listener. Thank you for coming back for another episode. And for the next 3 weeks, in the next 3 episodes, I have quite a treat because I want to clarify the misconceptions and the fog that's literally surrounding the relationship between estrogen and breast cancer and how dangerous estrogen is after menopause. So in the previous couple of episodes, in the past 2 weeks, I tried to make the point of how valuable estrogen is for a woman's body and how difficult and procrastinating it is for most women to make this very important decision whether to consider estrogen therapy for menopause or not. And it's no fault of theirs that they procrastinate and they wait and delay. They've been told, and they're constantly told by many, not just medical professionals, but people around them, family, friends, other women, that estrogen is bad for them after menopause. I gave the example of the patient who had come to me in her 60s after 10 years post-menopause, during which she had never considered estrogen therapy because she thought she felt overall fine. She ate healthy, she exercised, she had a positive outlook on life. This woman did not feel any urgent or acute need for anything to change. It is true, she could see a change in the mirror, a big change, which was getting her disappointed. It is true her strength, stamina, and endurance were not what they used to be, and there was a decline. But one of the things that she lost, and apparently she had made her peace with it, was her ability to be sexually intimate with the husband she had, her dear husband of, I think she said he was 30 years or more. And she attributed all these things to aging and simply accepted them as a good woman. She was told to accept, embrace, and this is it. And she did. Last week, I happened to take care of another woman who had come to me with a somewhat similar situation, but what had driven her to my door was severe osteoporosis and the significant risk of fracture she faced, as well as her reluctance and hesitation to try any of the currently approved FDA medications or most recent biologic agents, because she was very aware of the possible side effects, the long-term side effects, which she wanted to avoid because this woman is still only in her mid-50s. She was also 10 years after a very early menopause. And similar to the other patient, she had spent 1 decade waiting, not deciding to go for estrogen, simply procrastinating. She took her doctor's warnings very seriously, and she was afraid to do any significant exercise, especially weight-bearing exercise, because she was afraid of injuring herself and breaking a bone. She was right to be afraid. She had actually lost a significant amount of muscle, not just bone mass. And the muscle has the very important role of protecting our body because it wraps up our bones and joints into a very, very much needed, not just the mechanism of moving our joints and our skeleton, but it's a layer of protection in case you have a fall. She had also lost the ability to have vaginal intimacy, just like the other patient and like many other women. But as opposed to the other patient, she was single, not dating. And she admitted at the last appointment that she literally stopped any relationship with a potential partner because she was afraid to be embarrassed. And she was afraid of being in pain. And she was not going to put herself in a situation where she was not going to be able to be sexually intimate and embarrass herself with the situation. She's not alone. These 2 women are not alone. There are many more like them out there. I have said this before in quite a few episodes of mine. It's one of my favorite, let's say, quotes. 1 ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And nothing applies better to this than doing estrogen after menopause. So let's take what happens after menopause to a woman's body and consider the fact that if we can prevent such significant, impactful loss of function, why not prevent it? Why not consider prevention instead of waiting for something to break and now requiring a cure, like these 2 women? Let me give you 3 reasons why 1 ounce of prevention is worth much more than a pound of cure when it comes to menopause and postmenopause hormone therapy. Number 1, a pound of cure, it's a lot more expensive than 1 ounce of prevention. Reversing damage of any kind is very expensive. Try to reverse osteoporosis. Try to reverse vaginal pain from atrophy or significant narrowing of the vaginal canal or vulvodynia now or possible vaginismus. You have to consider now and invest in treatment methods that obviously, hopefully they're going to work, that need to be effective. But most of these therapies likely will have to come out of your pocket, because doing a little estrogen 10 years ago and continuing to do it and never losing the function, it's not as costly as it is to now need laser therapy and dilators and hormone pellets or anything else that would give you the maximum impact, but your health insurance rarely or never will cover because they do not cover restorative and regenerative therapies. Number 2, the time factor. It could take quite a while, a long time, to cure a disease or recover a function of something that was lost years ago. It would involve a very long journey of trial and error to recover and regain what was slowly lost over the years. Each patient responds differently. And if a few years have gone by, maybe a decade or more, when it comes to the health of your bones or sexual wellness, just because I took these 2 examples, it could take a long time. Many women give up. They think if it's not going to happen in a day, a few months, it's not worth it. We live in an age where quick fixes is what everyone is looking for. Everyone wants the magic pill, the magic supplement, the magic peptide, the magic vitamin combo, the magic laser that's going to make them right as rain in a matter of weeks, maybe months. And many women do not realize it could take years to rebuild bones. And it could take months or years to rebuild muscle mass. And maybe to even recover lost sexual function. It depends on the cause for it and the severity of the condition. And number 3, simplicity. 1 ounce of prevention is always, always easier than a pound of cure. Not just on your wallet, but also on your body. The least destructive the consequences of losing hormones, the least destructive these consequences are for a woman, the better and easier for her body to come back to baseline when you want to turn back the clock or the time. We can't do that with hormones, as long as not too long has gone by. Now, I have heard this question many times as a practicing hormone therapy physician. I'm quoting a patient now. I know I shouldn't have stopped hormone therapy 5 years ago, doctor. I felt better then. Now I notice all these changes. My wrinkles, my muscle mass, I'm weaker, I'm losing hair, my mind is changing. Now, if I restart hormone therapy, which I had stopped a few years back, are all these changes going to go away? Am I going to be back to where I was when I was on hormones? Obviously, the correct answer is no, not really. And that is a hard truth to swallow. But the upside of restarting the therapy again would be to prevent feeling and looking worse, because unfortunately, that is inevitable. What is interesting for you to know and fascinating to me is that these 2 cases I mentioned earlier are likely about 10 to 20% of my current hormone practice. In the past 2 to 3 years, I have seen a shift. Many women are coming in early. They heed the call to take action to protect themselves. 9 out of 10 women, maybe 8 out of 10 women who come to see me are women in their late 40s to mid 50s, maybe late 50s, the latest, who are coming to the realization that something very powerful is missing, that menopause took something very precious, and they want it back. These women are fearless. They're not afraid to take back their power. They stopped listening to the naysayers, and they bravely embrace what they believe is the one and only solution for them, hormone therapy. And that they come asking about it. They come wanting it. And once they start the therapy, they are very happy that they did and very grateful that they have themselves back. I've made this significant argument in the past that we are a very disease-driven model of healthcare. Men and women, but specifically and especially women, are conditioned to wait until something is deeply and seriously broken before they actually seek help. Here's the thing. When it comes to hormone loss and hormone deficiency, the consequences of waiting until something is significantly broken or damaged, like your bone density with severe osteoporosis now, or you have complete and total loss of sexual intimacy and the ability to have a relationship for a woman who is single is gone. And obviously there are many other consequences I could talk about. I just picked these two for examples because I had these two cases. But these two are meant to drive home a point. And the point is that the consequences of waiting for something to actually be broken before a woman seeks medical care and finally decides to ask about hormone therapy and try it could be severe. Women and men too, but this is specifically pertaining to women at menopause and hormone therapy. They need to shift the mentality of, well, it ain't broke. There's nothing to fix. They need to shift to the mentality of, it's not broken. Let's keep it from breaking. This is the most important approach that you can take as a woman to safeguard your health and your wellness after menopause. Whoever tells you different, they don't really know what they're talking about, and you really should not listen to them. And you should listen to me because I'm going to give you some arguments about why you should listen to me and not to these other people. I really meant this episode to start by pointing out the obvious, which is the fact that many, probably too many women wait until it's too late or very late to take action when it comes to their hormones. They wait to take action when it comes to their weight. They wait to take action when it comes to their mental wellness. They keep waiting and hoping it will all get better on its own. Many women wait a very long time to make a decision about hormone therapy after menopause because they have been told it will give them cancer. And this is one of the myths and lies that have been perpetuated about estrogen that I really want to dispel with this mini series of episodes that's coming up, starting with this episode. Because both of the two women I described at the beginning of this episode hesitated and procrastinated, both due to the fear of cancer, as well as due to the belief that they could maybe, just maybe, get better if they waited a little bit longer. And I feel fine. It's not an urgent matter. I'll just take action next month. Oh, maybe in a few months. Well, maybe next year. Well, it's been 2 years and I made it fine up to this point. Maybe I can wait another year, and so on and so forth. When it comes to an infection, the longer you wait, the worse it is. When it comes to cancer, the longer you wait to take action, the worse the outcome will be. Similarly, the longer you wait to take action once you have lost your sex hormones and now you have sex hormone deficiency, the longer you wait, the more serious those consequences of that specific loss for your body is, and the more difficult to reverse. Now, you don't just need a pound of cure. You might need 100 or 1,000 pounds of cure. This is a very important and one of the major arguments that hormone therapy should be started early and not later in life if women are to reap the benefits of this therapy. I will get to the timing of hormone therapy in an upcoming episode, but first and foremost, The topic of today's episode, as the first of the 3 series, is debunking the myth that estrogen causes cancer. And I want to shine light on the truth of how this dangerous lie came to be and why is it still perpetuated today. Many women, if not almost all women, are still afraid of hormone therapy after menopause. Even the ones that are on hormone therapy always say, "Doctor, please give me the lowest dose that's going to prevent me from getting breast cancer." They don't understand. The number one reason they are afraid of hormones is the fear of breast cancer. So let's look at what brought this fear and what is perpetuating it. A little bit about the history of hormone therapy so we can understand how this fear came to be. Hormone therapy was introduced shortly after World War II, believe it or not, and until late 1990s, for about 50 years, that's 5 decades, it was believed to be the fountain of youth. It was the fountain of youth, but something changed in the early 2000s. A study was initiated by a government initiative. The money came from the NIH, and the financial sponsorship of the hormone medication was provided for free by a company called Wyeth Erst, which was the maker of Premarin and Prempro. A little history on the hormone therapy that was chosen. This company, Erst, McKenna, and Harrison, was a Canadian pharmaceutical company who originally developed Premarin in 1941. And then it was approved in the US in 1942, very quickly. Wyeth Pharmaceuticals and Erst, spelled A-Y-E-R-S-T, if I'm not mistaken, merged in 1987 into Wyeth Erst Pharmaceuticals, later acquired by Pfizer in 2009. The history of estrogen therapy is very complicated and very interesting. I have a link to a manuscript I found on PubMed, which can make for a fascinating read, and I posted it in the show notes, so please go look for it there. But I'll give you a few highlights. What you might not know is the fact that the drug Premarin, which was approved in 1942 in the US for the treatment of menopause, continued to be steadily prescribed by probably the great majority of practicing physicians. And by 1975, estrogen prescribed as Premarin was the 5th most prescribed drug in the United States. Think about that for a second. Take the top medications prescribed, and estrogen in 1975 was the top 5th most prescribed medication. Then, in the 1970s, after about 30 years of using it, there were some significant and very concerning reports of research showing an increased risk of uterine cancer because women were receiving estrogen only. So the use of estrogen declined. Everybody was like, okay, well, I don't want to get uterine cancer, so I don't want to do estrogen. But further research showed that the risk of uterine cancer was decreased 98% by adding a progestin. So the slower pace of prescriptions picked up again in the 1980s very quickly, reviving the concept of menopause therapy. In 1984, just to give you an example on how strong and important and accepted and streamlined estrogen was, the NIH Consensus Development Conference on Osteoporosis actually declared estrogen as the best way to prevent bone loss. How is that possible? Yes, before all the new drugs like Prolia and Evenity and all these UMABs that modulate bone turnover, estrogen was king not just for menopause, but for osteoporosis. It was considered the best first-line treatment available for osteoporosis. Now, what happened in the last 40 years? Why did we lose sight of this? Why is this buried so deep that doctors have completely forgotten, that this new generation of doctors have no idea that estrogen should be the first line of therapy for osteoporosis? Why has estrogen been pushed aside? When the loss of estrogen causes bone loss after menopause, and we know that that's why osteoporosis happens, why not reverse it with estrogen therapy? When your blood pressure goes up, you're recommended the blood pressure lowering medication, right? It's not a cure, but this is what you recommended. When someone develops diabetes, can no longer make insulin, the insulin is the best therapy. So why not correct osteoporosis by addressing the root cause of osteoporosis, the loss of estrogen. Why is estrogen not the first therapy offered to women now who suffer from severe osteoporosis? Instead, they're giving medications that increases risk of osteosarcoma and cancer and other things. Keep listening. I will tell you. I'll tell you the answer to this question. It is all because of the WHI study. This study was started in 1991 and ended in 2005 officially. Now, what was the purpose of this study? This study is very important. For the previous 5 decades before this study was started, from 1940s to 1991, so 50 years, there was very clear observational evidence that hormone therapy for menopause could be the fountain of youth for women. Women felt great, they looked good, they felt good, they slept well, they have good mood and energy, and Premarin was helping them. It took away the hot flashes, it made them feel better, it improved osteoporosis, and it was also suspected that there were cardiovascular health benefits to using hormone therapy after menopause. Now, the WHI hormone trials began in order to clearly define the effects of estrogen as a primary prevention measure for chronic heart disease. Because remember, and I've talked about this in previous episodes, what is the number one killer of women after menopause? Not hot flashes, not osteoporosis, and obviously not painful intercourse. It's heart disease. So this study was led by cardiologists, and the main outcome measure was cardiac in nature. This study was not meant to determine the efficacy of estrogen therapy in menopause as a whole, and no hormone experts at the time were consulted on what type of therapy is best, how to give it, and to whom, who is the ideal candidate. The Women's Health Initiative, WHI, was sponsored by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, one of the largest institutes and centers that make up the National Institutes of Health, NHI. The WHI study was a long-term national health study that focused on the strategies for preventing heart disease, breast and colorectal cancer, and osteoporosis in postmenopausal women, considering the fact that all these chronic diseases are the major causes of death, disability, and frailty in older women of all races and all backgrounds as they age. The original WHI study had 3 parts: a clinical trial, an observational study, and a community prevention study. It all completed its data collection in 2005. It went on with some other arms and some other things beyond. But what is fascinating is that this is the largest women's health prevention study ever conducted. Now, I'm just going to focus on the clinical trial because this involves the hormone therapy and is what gave the estrogen its bad reputation. The clinical trial part of the Women's Health Initiative study was a prospective, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study of more than 16,000 healthy postmenopausal women between the ages of 50 and 79. Now, here's the kicker. Here's what's interesting. And I'll explain about all these words that I just threw at you. I'll explain all of them. The average age of the WHI participants, and this is critical information, was 63 years old, which is significantly older than the average age of menopause in North America, which is 51 years. Many of the women weren't even symptomatic. They didn't have hot flashes. There were no vasomotor symptoms. And they picked women who had never used estrogen before. So to explain what a prospective trial is, it's a study in which participants are selected and followed forward in time into the future. And the consequences of the studied therapy, the subject of the study, the consequences are analyzed. And instead of looking back at the evidence, the statistics, instead of gathering old data and analyzing the old data and saying, well, look, women live longer on hormone therapy. They feel better. They have stronger bones. They have healthier hearts. Instead of doing that, there was a clear need for this type of study, double-blinded, randomized, controlled study. So when we have a study like that, the study splits the population in 2 groups. And women are selected that meet certain criteria that are decided from the beginning of the study. We're going to pick these women that meet this criteria. and or whoever the researchers were told to study, because of the financing governmental organization was the one who paid the money. So it's hard to say who decided what to study, but this is how studies are run. Now, each woman participating in the study is assigned to the placebo group, who gets a vitamin, a placebo, or the medication group, in our case, the hormone group. This assignment is done by someone who does not know whether the person they select is going to the placebo group or the medication group. They just split them in group 1, group 2. They have no idea group 1 is the hormone group or the vitamin group, the placebo group. They just select them. The women that are selected for the specific group have no idea if they're going to receive a placebo or they're going to receive the hormone pill, the actual hormone medication. This is a double-blinded study where both the woman participating in the study and the person designated to assign the woman to one of the two groups, they're both completely blinded as to what the woman would finally receive. Now, at the end of the study, all the markers for the health that were established at the beginning as being what we're looking at, bone density, blood test markers, calcium scores for plaque, stroke, heart attacks, whatever they were looking for, including adverse events, are all gathered for both groups. They're compared and subjected to statistical data analysis. And it's also important to know that the WHI clinical trial and the observational study were conducted at 40 clinical centers throughout the U.S. and enrolled more than 160,000 women. This study engaged more than 5,000 scientists from the U.S. and even from the beyond outside of the U.S., and it was backed by $625 million in federal funding from the NIH. To present, the WHI study was the largest and is the largest women's health study ever conducted on the planet. That is why the study was given such importance. I want to continue next week on this topic. There's lots more to say. I'm running out of time today, but trust me, I'm coming back next week with some very important and very crucial information to consider, and I'm going to explain why and how the study was done on the wrong women. I've already told you they were 63 years old on an average, and they were given the wrong hormone, Premarin, the horse urine hormone in a pill form, using the wrong route, orally, not transdermally. Now, many specialists say they would have predicted the outcome of the study, many hormone specialists, had they been asked for their opinion. But nobody asked for their opinion. Remember, the study was run and designed not by hormone specialists, but by cardiologists. And the primary endpoint of the study was cardiac in nature. Next week, I will discuss more important information regarding the study and how it changed the standard of care for hormone therapy and drove fear into the heart of all women and doctors alike. Thank you for trusting me with your time, and thank you for listening to today's episode. If the content I provided wowed you, was helpful and valuable to either you or someone close to you, please do me a favor and leave me a review. I am very open and welcome any kind of feedback as well as suggestions on any content ideas, so please forward those suggestions to Jessica, my patient care coordinator, through our website, herabeautyandwellness.com. And I look forward to our time together next episode.